Hey everyone, Carl here with Literate Lessons, and today we're going to take a look at why Trick Room teams are feeling a little bit lackluster in Regulation C. I think there's a lot to be left desired from Regulation C outside of the normal Palafin Balance stuff. Everyone's kind of getting bored of it, but one of the cool things about a very centralized team like that means that you can start to team build around it and maybe come up with some new strategies. The first of this is going to be looking at Trick Room. I think Trick Room is woefully underplayed. I think there's a lot that we can kind of look and explore in terms of Trick Room setters and then kind of fleshing out teams and kind of look at that. The first big setter I want to talk about, and it's kind of starting to take up in popularity again, is Bronzong. Bronzong, being that steel psychic type, resists the Terra Fairy Fluttermane, lets you hit Fluttermane for super effective damage using Gyro Ball or not Body Press, or Iron Head. You also do have Body Press for all of the Ruin Pokemon if you are going that route. You have Levitate, so you really only have a very few select weaknesses, and you can always Terra into a Mono Steel type or a Mono Electric type or whatever you kind of are looking for to eliminate a lot of those weaknesses. You have very high defenses, decent HP. I believe Gyro Ball is all Bud and Oko into Fluttermane pretty much every time, if I've done the calc right. But there's a lot that I like about Bronzong, and then there's just some things that I'm not the greatest, like the highest on, specifically just the psychic type part of it. You get hit by all the dark type moves. You get hit by Torkoal, Arcanine, all that stuff, which you can kind of account for with your ability. Heat Proof, if that's something you're into. Bronzong makes a great Trick Room setter for teams that have a specific ground weakness or a specific fire weakness in this situation. And so overall, Bronzong gets the nod in my little top 5 list here of potential Trick Room setters. Another Trick Room setter I really like right now is Mimikyu. Mimikyu is another one of those Pokemon that sets Trick Room but can also kind of deal with Fluttermane in a way, having access to Shadow Sneak and Shadow Claw. One of the cool things about Mimikyu is you are immune to extreme speed, so Dragonite can't really do anything to you. They would have to Sucker Punch you with like Chen Pao or King Gambit to break that disguise if they have Fluttermane next to it. But most of the time, you're going to get an attack off, at least in the form of Trick Room or Shadow Claw, Shadow Sneak, Play Rough, whatever. One of the cool things I found out while doing calcs is Play Rough with Life Orb from Mimikyu, I think, can Oko most Fluttermanes. I believe once you get into the really bulky ones, you have a hard time picking up that Oko 100% of the time, and you kind of have to Terra. But Play Rough and Shadow Claw both can easily deal with a 252 Fluttermane if you're carrying Life Orb or Choice Band or anything like that. What makes Mimikyu great is its disguise ability. Being able to take that hit means that at minimum, it's going to be very hard to take you out, especially if you pair this with redirection, things like a Moongus, Lilligant, Brute Bonnet, or not Brute Bonnet, Lilligant, Jump Bluff. There's the one I'm looking for. The other Chlorophyll Grass. And Brute Bonnet. Brute Bonnet not being super duper common anymore just because of the dark type, but still a very valuable Pokemon, I think, going forward, being able to just kind of check a lot of the Palafin team, specifically outside of Fluttermane. Think like Palafin, you can Terra Water and become a problem for Arcanine because you have access to dark moves. There's a lot that you can really do with Brute Bonnet. It just kind of sucks because everybody's packing stuff to beat the dark type part of that. The next 3 Pokemon I want to talk about for Trick Room setters are all normal Psychic type. This is on purpose. I think if you're going to be doing Trick Room thing with one of these Psychic types, in the case of like Bronzong, Farigiraf, Indeedee, Oranguru, Hatterene, Screamtail, anything that has a Psychic type attachment, you have to be wary of Fluttermane just coming in and hitting Shadow Ball and just knocking you out. For the case of all 3 of these, you just get to ignore that fact, and you can probably calc to take a Moonblast in most situations, or play Redirect and Direction next to it, like with a Moongus, and take the Moonblast that way. One of the other benefits of 2 of these is they kind of just turn off all priority moves. Armored Tail and Psychic Surge are both very strong tools in this generation, just mainly because Dragonite, Qianpao, King Gambit. There's a Jet Punch from Palafin. There's a lot of priority moves that have kind of pushed this team out of the format, and so having that anti-priority, especially on things like Farigiraf or maybe setting up a terrain like Indeedee, can help you mitigate that big ol' priority move issue. Oranguru, in my opinion, is probably the weakest of the bunch up here. It's very limited in what it can do. Think like outside of Instruct, Torkoal, or other big spread damage moves, Oranguru's not really doing a whole lot. Where it strives is its ability to inner focus. It means you don't have to worry about fake out, and you don't have to you can still take a double up, and you're not ever really clicking a damaging move, so you don't have to worry about Sucker Punch. Most of the time you see things like Instruct, Trick Room, Encore, and then probably Psychic as your move set here. This is a very, very powerful set. Sometimes if you're really looking for a stronger stall set, you can play Protect. Both options work great, but like I said, I think Oranguru is probably the weakest of the bunch. When it comes to Trick Room teams, I think if you play Oranguru as your setter, you kind of have to build around Oranguru because it's a very weak and critical point on your team. Now I want to take a look at some example teams here, kind of give you an idea on how you can approach building with these Pokemon. The first one we're going to start with is probably my front runner for best Trick Room setter in Farigiraf. Having access to that Armored Tail is very, very important. You're normal and psychic, so your weaknesses are very minimal. You have actually really decent move pool in terms of coverage, in terms of Dazzling Gleam, Shadow Ball. You have physical coverage in the form of Iron Head if that's something you're interested in running to. But overall, the big things that you can do here is it kind of works like what a support Pokemon should be doing. You have a very deep support pool in things like Thunder Wave and Ally Switch, Helping Hand, Light Screen, Reflect, if I remember right. Yep. So there's a lot you can really do with Farigiraf and come out ahead. For this set in particular, we're looking at Protect, Trick Room, Dazzling Gleam, and Thunder Wave if Trick Room's not good enough. I think Thunder Wave overall is going to be a very, very critical thing to have for this squad because we only have other status in the form of Amoonguss here with Pollen Puff, Rage Powder, Seed Bomb specifically, and Spore. Seed Bomb is becoming my kind of go-to Amoonguss move just because you want to be able to hit Ting Lu, you want to be able to hit Palafin, and Ting Lu kind of reduces your damage, it makes the game draw out longer. Even though Pollen Puff would be super effective, Seed Bomb is stab, so it kind of evens out. But having that Thunder Wave means that if you can't Spore something, you can at least Thunder Wave it and then make things a little bit easier on yourself in terms of getting hit. For our damage, we have Mimikyu here as Flutter Mane answer plus Trick Room setter. We have King Gambit to kind of help facilitate that and just be a very strong Trick Room sweeper. In terms of sweepers, though, we also have this Choice Specs Torkoal that I'm kind of messing around with. I had Fissure in this last slot here for Sludge Bomb. I'm not sure if that's what I want still. Being Choice Specs locked into Fissure is not the greatest thing, but I'm kind of just playing with some ideas here. And then we have Icy Wind, Freeze Dry, Encore, Protect, Booster Energy Bundle. Bundle here kind of is like our Palafin check. We outspeed most of what it's doing. We resist a lot of its hits. It's usually just I can't sit in front of Bundle and just kind of runs away. So its team kind of just works out to being a strong Fire, Water, Grass trio with Mimikyu, King Gambit, and Farigiraf as kind of being this Trick Room mode. Bundle can kind of get you out of some sticky situations just because of how good it is in certain matchups. Mimikyu kind of being the same way, having that priority Shadow Sneak and Play Rough. So there's some really cool synergies here, I think, that you can kind of work around with and kind of maybe eke out some wins against the Balance team. But it'll definitely come with a lot of practice and patience. This next team looks to really turn it on when the Trick Room mode goes, and then has the option of Flutter Mane Chi-Yu if Trick Room's not good enough. So the idea here is Bronzong, Iron Hands, Gastrodon, Garg is a very strong form on core. It has a lot of good answers and a lot of strong typings between the four of them. Bronzong having Levitate means that Iron Hands doesn't have to worry as much. Same thing with Garganical. Gastrodon having that big electric weakness means that we can swap in Iron Hands or Chi-Yu to kind of absorb some of that blow. And when this 4-mon mode doesn't really work, we get to bring in Fluttermane and Chi-Yu and kind of just sweep that way. Fun fact, Gastrodon with a Chi-Yu next to it is still really good. Chi-Yu reduces all the targets of Gastrodon's target special defenses. If they use a water move to try and take Chi-Yu and you get a free Storm Drain boost, that means you're doing even more damage with Gastrodon. And so being able to kind of abuse Gastrodon's Storm Drain with Chi-Yu or Garg next to it and kind of absorb those jet punches and wave crashes and such means that kind of just turn off Palafin and any other really scary water type, and they have to find new ways to kind of deal with Chi-Yu and or Fluttermane. Overall, this team doesn't really have the same kind of cores that you would typically see on teams, but I do like that this Bronzong Iron Hands combo is really cute. I like Fluttermane Chi-Yu together a lot. Gastrodon solves a lot of the scary Palafin problems that Chi-Yu Garg kind of would suffer from, and Garg is just kind of here to be like our insurance policy. Most teams have a way to deal with Garg, but if they can't get to Garg until they're down to 1 or 2 Pokemon, dealing with Garganacl is going to be much harder for them. And so that's kind of the idea here. Garganacl is going to get to eventually just come in, set up, throw out Rock Salt, and kind of stall the game out that way. And that's all I've got this week. Trick Room it's in a tough spot right now. I think there's definitely ways to build this team and kind of get over the hump that is the Palafin Balance team. It takes more work than people are willing to put in right now just because of how short we have left in the format. Overall, Trick Room is still a great option in Regulation C, and with enough time and patience, I think most people can at least get to the point where it's consistently winning events again. If you like what you see, make sure to do all that fun YouTube stuff for us. Like, comment, subscribe. It helps us out a lot, and we will see you all next time for another deep dive. Bye, everyone.